Well, now that all the excitement has died down, the draft is over. We are officially into the dog days of the offseason as we look ahead to the 2025 NFL season. The schedule will be out next week. That'll give us a tangible reference point to be able to look ahead and try to project what teams are going to do. That's what it's all about right now. Predictions and projections, not just for 2025, but beyond. And right now, those who make a living analyzing the NFL and making those projections don't seem to be buying what the Seahawks are selling. Lots of low expectations out there. Do they match up with how you feel about this team? And why does it seem like the national media might be lower on this team than certainly we are and even some others? We'll discuss today on Seahawks Forever.
Welcome to the Seahawks Forever podcast. In-depth analysis on everything Seahawks. And now, here's your host, Dan Viens.
Welcome back, you guys. It's been a week, right? I cannot remember the last time it has been that long since we have spoken, but we made it safe and sound over here on the almost East Coast, getting to explore areas of the country I've never been in before. But now we get together again and start looking ahead to this 2025 Seahawks team, one that I know certainly if you've been watching the show, you know I'm excited about and I'm bullish on. That's going to always tend to be my default, but I also really like to expand my view and see what other people are saying about this team. And if it differs from what I think about this roster and this organization moving forward, then I like to ask why. Is there something I'm missing? Is there something we're missing? Are we simply seeing this through Seahawks, action green colored glasses, if you will? Before we get into this topic today, if you would subscribe to the channel if you don't already, hit that like button and the bell for notification of future episodes. Anytime you take a break away from YouTube, the algorithm forgets about you for a little bit, punishes you, if you will. And so to get back in their good graces with the content that I'll be cranking out now here moving forward, those are some of the things you can do to help the channel the most, is like the video, subscribe to the channel, comment down below, engage with the topic, and we can engage with each other. The more tangible ways that you can support me as a full-time content creator and the show are listed and linked down below in the description. While I've been on the road for the last week, I've certainly stayed aware of what's happening out there, although not as engaged as any of you who follow me on Twitter would know. That's at Seahawks Forever if you don't, but certainly aware. And while there haven't been any groundbreaking, earth-shattering moves, there may be some. I think we'll be talking about some veteran signings here over the next couple of weeks. We have had rookie minicamp over the weekend. Corbin Smith, beat reporter for the Seahawks, who was there at the VMAC to watch those workouts, will be joining us tomorrow to discuss what he saw. And as we get back into the swing of things, we'll start bringing in some of our favorite voices that cover the Seahawks out there and get their thoughts on what they've seen so far. Now we're in phase 2 of OTAs, where veterans have now shown up at VMAC. You're starting to see those pictures come out, and now we get even more excited, right? Like we're seeing Jalen Milroe throwing to Elijah Arroyo and things of that nature, and Ricky White, and not Torrey Horton yet. He's still nursing that knee injury. They want to make sure that he comes back 100%. But this is the time of year where every fan thinks their team has a chance to win the Super Bowl. Every fan thinks that their team nailed the draft. And honestly, when it comes to that this year, they might not be wrong. Very, very few bad draft grades handed out this year across the league. In fact, Chad Reuter's draft grades that he published on NFL.com shortly after the draft, not a single grade less than B across the entire league. We'll be discussing some of the deeper issues and reasons potentially for that. I mean, it has become accepted among those who analyze the league that teams across the board have just gotten better at it. And we'll talk about some of those reasons with a very special guest coming up soon. But then we have to step back sometimes and listen to other voices. And when I've done that, the first thing that sparked my interest and thought that it was worth talking about this as a standalone topic is people start to predict records, even without the schedule coming out, which is, an exercise in futility, if you ask me. But we're starting to see, like, here's what the NFC West looks like. And more, as I'm traveling across the country and checking my phone every once in a while, I'm seeing a consistent trend. The Rams are picked by just about everyone universally across the board to win the division. And if we were making those picks today, I wouldn't disagree with that. I would put the Rams at the top as well. I think it's the best roster. I think they've got the most things going for them. They had a lot of continuity. They made some significant additions. I think they're poised to come out of the gate as the favorite in the division, and I think they've earned that. And then it gets a little strange. We know, of course, the Seahawks finished second in the division last year, just lost out on the playoffs by a tiebreaker, a 10-7 record, one of only, a handful of teams that have won 10 games over the last several years that haven't made the playoffs. We know the San Francisco 49ers stumbled last year largely due to a ton of injuries, but maybe not only due to a ton of injuries. And then there's the Arizona Cardinals, who every single year seem to be the darlings and kind of that pick that an analyst will make because they just want to be different. But this year, I'm seeing the Seahawks picked third and fourth in the division quite a bit. In fact, I think the consensus as I look around at those who are making those guesses is that they are third or fourth in just about every projection. Why? Why not second? Why are the San Francisco 49ers almost universally in these same projections expected to finish second, make the playoffs, win 10 games, as if nothing happened last year, as if there were no roster losses? And so I just thought I'd go into this, and I've got some things prepared for you. We're going to go through some of the power rankings and some of the draft projections and see what people think of the Seahawks and how they think 2025 is going to go for them versus where they think some of these other teams are, and then ask maybe why they feel that way. So let's do this. First and foremost, let's take a look at some of the power rankings that everyone has been doing as we come through and get deeper into the offseason. And I kind of handpicked, the 5 or 6 of the biggest ones out there, but all the others too. I could have chose 10 or 15, and they're all right in this range with one exception down at the bottom. USA Today, Bleacher Report, both have the Seahawks smack dab in the middle, as do ESPN and NFL.com, right there, right in the middle, 15th and 16th. And honestly, that sounds fair to me. I kind of think I understand some of the questions on offense. They've remade almost that entire side of the ball on the coaching staff side and the roster side. And so that's not too far off. But then you get your lone outlier. Our old friend Pete Prisco from CBS Sports picks the Seahawks 27th. 27th out of 32 teams. We'll get back to that. And then this is where we're finding them in the way too early 2026 mock drafts. And yes, I will be doing one. I have a guest coming on who has already started to study the 2026 class. And so we'll look at like a 3-round mock Seahawks draft. I know that drives some of you crazy, but it's fun and there's a demand for it. So yeah, I'll be doing it. But this is where some of the bigger future mock drafts have us picking. USA Today, 14th. ESPN, 12th. CBS Sports, 11th. Pro Football Focus, 11th. And this is when I started to notice this, is when I played around with a couple of mock draft simulators myself. And I thought, wait a minute, why are we picking 11th, 12th? We're only going to win 7 games next year? 8? Okay. Walter Football thinks we're going to do even worse than that. 9th. Has us picking 9th in next year's draft. Am I crazy, or is that seem unreasonable? Unrealistic? Now, just to give a little perspective, in those same power rankings, USA Today, which had us 15th, has San Francisco 14th. Bleacher Report has them one spot behind us at 16th. ESPN has us paired up too. 16th for us, 15th for them. NFL.com has us 19th, has San Francisco 15th. Pete Prisco, who has us 27th, has San Francisco at 14th. Has Arizona at 20th. So he's one that thinks the Seahawks are the worst team in the division, or are going to be. Our average position in these power rankings, 18.4. San Francisco's average, 14.8. Arizona about a spot behind us. But then you look at what Vegas thinks. And every single projection I have seen, the betting odds for how the NFC West is going to stack out in 2025, has the Seahawks either third or fourth, take that back. Every projection I've seen has them either fourth or tied for fourth with Arizona in the division. And I've seen some division projections as well that have Arizona as high as second. Why is this? San Francisco didn't do anything to improve their offensive line, which, you can look at some analytics and some win rate stats and say, well, their line's okay. And they have Trent Williams and Dominic Pooney look good as a rookie last year. But San Francisco 49er fans and content creators will tell you they're not really comfortable with the status of the offensive line and that they wish it had been addressed more significantly in the last two drafts. A year ago, it was a great offensive tackle draft, and they didn't touch it there, although they came away with Pooney in the third round. It's a nice get for them. And then they lost Aaron Banks, who went and signed for, $77 million in Green Bay? Now, fans are torn on whether or not they would have wanted to keep him or not, but the fact remains they didn't make any significant moves in this draft or free agency to address the offensive line. And in fact, they lost their best backup tackle, went and signed in Houston, I think. Tennessee? Yeah, didn't write that down. So they're really banking on another healthy season for Trent Williams, who's on the other side of 30 years old, right? No more Deebo Samuel. We don't know about Brandon Ayuk. There are some reports that he could be back for week 1, but that wasn't just a simple clean ACL tear. There was other stuff involved there. It was a significant knee injury. If he is back by week 1, I think it's fair to assume that he won't be 100%. You have Ricky Pearsall going into his second year, but no Deebo Samuel. He was a huge part of what they did and their attack there. CMC will be back. I get it. I was shocked when I looked it up today that he's not going to turn 29 still until next month. I thought he was closer to 30, if not at 30. It seems like he's been around forever. And he's been through so much from an injury standpoint. And that's the thing. He'll be back. And I think a lot of these projections are based on they'll have McCaffrey back. Can we count on him being durable? Getting closer to 30 and coming off, yet another injury-plagued season. Is he ever going to give the Niners 17 healthy, productive games again? He might, and I love him as a player, but that's a lot to bank on if you're basing your projections. If you think the 49ers are going to get back into the playoffs because CMC's back, that's a lot. You're putting all your eggs in that one basket, right? Because on defense, my goodness, you lose Dre Greenlaw, Talanoa Hufanga, Charvarius Ward, Leonard Floyd. Like, those were key contributors, not just to their defense from a practical standpoint, but to kind of the fabric of the identity of that defense, right? And I know they get Robert Saleh back. I think they're putting a lot of weight into that move as well. And they went out in the draft and they attacked that defensive front. They attacked it. Mykel Williams, Alfred Collins, CJ West, those are all players I like. But what do we talk about every year leading up to the draft when it comes to interior defensive linemen and offensive linemen, but even more so on the defense? We've talked about it in terms of Byron Murphy, who's still just 22 years old. Those guys don't get physically They don't physically develop fully until 25, 26 years old. Watched a podcast recently with a bunch of NFL defensive linemen admitting that, talking about that amongst themselves. That, yeah, we're not grown men until we're 25. And so if you expect all those guys to jump in and just get that defensive line back to elite status like it was a couple of years ago, I mean, it's a good group. I like those guys, wanted some of those guys, would have taken all three of those guys on the Seahawks. And it is kind of ironic that we come out of the draft in the one position that I'm still the most leery of depth-wise is that defensive line. And that we only addressed it with Riley Mills, who I love, but we may not get back to start the season, and bringing Jonathan Hankins back. It's a lot to bank on and just say, well, the 49ers have been good. They've got Kyle Shanahan. They're just going to get back there again. I don't know, man. When you look at the Seahawks, and then you flip that over, they bring back their entire defense. I mean, Draymond Jones is the only guy they really moved on from that started games last year. They have all 11 starters back on defense, plus 4 more who started games last year for them, and they added DeMarcus Lawrence to it. Average age on defense still just 27 years old, even though he just added a 33-year-old. And we saw how much better that defense got and how it turned a corner after that bye week when Ernest Jones came in trade. And that linebacker group, instead of being Dodson and Baker, became Jones and Knight. First 9 games, they gave up 24 and a half, almost 25 points a game. Last 8 games, 18 points. We saw the improvement. And so you have that coming back. You have that foundation. You have that basis. And yeah, tons of changes on offense, right? DK Metcalf out, Cooper Kupp in. All we've heard these last 5 years in regards to DK Metcalf from national analysts and some among the fan base is, man, we love the physical talent. We love what he can do. I love what he can do. But there were limitations to his game. If they had traded him and signed a journeyman like, Deontay Johnson, somebody like that who just signed with Cleveland today on a veteran minimum deal, basically, I would get the questioning. Cooper Kupp coming in and everybody just thinks he's this broken down, old, frail man, not 30 yet. Have you seen the pictures of him working out and training? He looks ripped. He looks in shape. It was an ankle injury last year. It's not like he's got creaky knees and he's falling apart. It was a high ankle injury. Didn't require surgery or anything. He's recovered from it. You swap Geno Smith for Sam Darnold. And it's funny to me that now this has become what appears to me to be the primary reason that national prognosticators are picking the Seahawks to not only not improve this year, but also take a step back in the one-loss record, is Geno Smith out, Sam Darnold in. When the national narrative has often been, well, Geno's imperfect. Geno is what he is. Geno is a mid quarterback. He has certainly had his fans among some of the really bright, sharp analysts nationally. We've seen that, right? But so has Sam Darnold. Think about all the praise he got for the season he had in Minnesota last year. It just seems like now that they've made that swap that we're just throwing out what Darnold did last year. We're getting a lot of deja vu-like speculation here, aren't we? Well, looked like he turned the corner. Looked like we finally saw the best version of Sam Darnold, but he only did it once. Let's see if he can do it again. Who have we heard that about recently? 2 years ago, when Geno had his year here. Well, let's see if he can do it again. Not so sure. But now these national analysts seem to be saying, well, we know what Darnold did last year, but I don't think he can replace Geno. Here's a comparison of their careers. And I broke it down into what an average season would look like. And it's when you start to break down all of their metrics, it's remarkable how similar these guys are. It really is. Completion percentage, Geno's got about a 4-point advantage on Darnold. But the rest of the production statistics, an average year out of Sam Darnold would be 3,356 yards, 20 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. For Geno, it would be 3,461 yards, 19 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. And surprisingly, Geno, a little bit more productive on the ground. He's going to give you 270 yards and 2 touchdowns rushing. Darnold's going to get in the end zone one more time, 199 rushing yards overall. Okay? So statistically, it's kind of a wash, isn't it? If you're projecting what you think the Seahawks might do. And then we know what this team has gotten beat up on the most over the last few years, not just from national media, but us. So I'm not saying that any of this is wrong, but the offensive line, right? That it's just hasn't been good enough. It's the thing that's held them back. Well, some have said the thing holding them back is Geno, but most of them say it's the offensive line. Well, they went out and they used a first-round pick on an interior offensive lineman. They checked the biggest box they had on the roster. Gray Zabel, boom, in at left guard. But there's more to it than that. We get a healthy Abe Lucas back this year at right tackle. And even the second half of last year when he finally returned, and we could tell he wasn't fully in football shape again, and he didn't quite have the explosion that he did before. He wasn't rookie Abe Lucas, but he was healthy enough, and he recovered, he bounced back, he was able to get through it. And now he's training unhindered. Says he feels healthy for the first time in 3 years. He's going 100% in the offseason. We're going to get the best version that we can get of Abe Lucas coming in this year. That turnstile at right tackle last year, Stone Forsythe, Michael Jarrell, George Fant for a minute. That was rough. There should be some stability there. There's no reason to think that there won't be. If you think, well, Abe Lucas had that knee thing, I'm not so sure about it. That's lazy analysis to me. He played, 7 games, 8 games with it last year, and now is training fully healthy. And then it's the coaching staff. This one's been talked to death, but I think it's significant. If you're going to make a living predicting these kinds of things on a national level, and I've dabbled in it just a little bit, like that draft channel that Bryce Coots and I launched a couple months ago, and then ended up putting it in mothballs for a while because it's just so hard to know the rest of the league intimately enough to do it justice as an analyst. But if that's what you're doing, if you're working for ESPN, NFL Today, and this is what you make a living doing, you certainly should make an attempt to get to know these teams intimately enough to really be able to accurately project this stuff. And if you're not taking this new coaching staff into account and the alignment that they come with, the experience in the league that they have, the experience with each other that they have, and just the nuts and bolts of the scheme itself and how much better it's going to be, I think, how much it's going to fit the talent they had on hand, and it's just going to be easier to execute and to gain some continuity with this group. Plus, they went out and added 3 more draft picks. They have now drafted more offensive linemen than any other team in the NFL over the last 3 years. I think it's even the last 4 years. You add Elijah Arroyo as an explosive element to the passing game. So if you're concerned about the loss of DK Metcalf, and I know rookies sometimes don't hit, but look at all the pressure being put on some of the rookies around the league. Oh my goodness, Ashton Genty is just going to be the best. There's a learning curve for all these guys. So if you're going to assume that some of those impact rookies are going to help these other teams significantly, why wouldn't you assume someone with a skill set like Arroyo could help the Seahawks passing game? And I'll take it a step further. The more I look at it, maybe my favorite thing about this draft now, with it being a week and a half in the rearview mirror, is the 2 receivers. It's the fact that every mock draft I did and we talked about on this channel had them taking a receiver on day 2 to really get some impact, and to be able to take advantage of some of the value in this draft and guys falling farther than we thought they would. Getting Torrey Horton in the 5th and Ricky White in the 7th is insane to me. And the more I study Ricky White, I'm not so sure 3-4 years from now when it's contract time, we look back, maybe Ricky White's in a better position than Horton to sign a big deal. I think both these guys are going to be key contributors. But I understand. You can chalk that one up as hometown bias. a national analyst might look at this draft and go, well, they're not going to get much out of those guys right away. But I also think that the factor that maybe isn't getting enough love, isn't getting enough weight placed upon it by some of these analysts, is this is year 2 now of Mike McDonald and his staff. Every coaching staff that's new goes through this, right? Year 2 is always better than year 1 because you're so behind on everything in year 1. They weren't involved in the evaluation process. The draft class last year didn't, although there's a lot that we like about it, but it didn't really involve their input all that much. This year, it very much did. All the way up till the end when John Benton, the offensive line coach, was a huge facilitator in the Mason Richmond pick. And so I think you're going to see some of that now as we see these players on the field. There's more continuity, more congruity among the staff and how they execute everything. Like what they're doing right now, this part of the offseason program is so much more dialed in than it was last year. That now you're adding players to it and there's no more learning curve. I just wanted to present this today and go through it just as an exercise to examine what people think this Seahawks team is going to be. Obviously, those of us that are emotionally attached to it are going to feel differently. But as much as I can, and I hope that those of you that watch the channel appreciate this because it's really the whole mission statement of the channel, is that I try to step back from my emotions as much as I can and be objective. And even when I objectively look at this roster and what they've done and how they've done it, I am extremely bullish on this team and what they could do, not just in 2025, but beyond. And maybe I'm more excited about that. I think they're going to compete this year. I can't wait to see the schedule and how it lays out. We know it's a favorable schedule this year, but guess what? It's also favorable for every other team in the division because they play roughly the same rotation divisionally, and then we get a couple of different games based on where they finished in the division. And Seahawks finishing second, obviously we're going to get a couple of more higher quality opponents than the Niners and the Cardinals. So they have a slight advantage. But to look at the Niners and what they had to deal with last year and their offseason and all the issues there with cash and having to cut back on some things, and it looks like there's some momentum moving towards a Brock Purdy deal, but there's differing opinions on whether that's good or bad. And just think that you look at all that and just think, well, they're going to get right back to 10, 11 wins and be in the playoffs this year, I think is unrealistic and overly optimistic, just as it is with the Cardinals. And I've seen people picking the Cardinals over the Seahawks, picking the Cardinals to finish second in the division over the Cardinals and the Niners. I've seen a couple of those. I just don't get the yearly annual tradition of propping up the Cardinals because it's still Kyler Murray at the end of the day. And I do like this draft. They added a bunch on defense, which they needed to. I just don't know that they have the guy under center that's special, that can elevate this team. And if you're still waiting for it after all these years and you still believe that he's that guy, I don't know what to tell you. I don't see it, never saw it. So far, I've been proven right. Maybe he turns it around this year and I get proven wrong. We'll deal with that. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it if we have to, but I don't think we will. I think the Seahawks, as we sit here today, should be viewed as the second best team in the NFC West until proven otherwise. And not just going with the Niners because of legacy. They have a lot to prove. Like, if Robert Saleh steps in right away with what he's lost on that defense and all these rookies and puts it together, and look, we saw something similar happen with the Rams last year, so I'm not saying it can't. Right? What they did with Braden Fisk and Jared Verse and added it to that group from the year before, and really, some weaknesses on the boundary, like some issues in the secondary. Sure, they can do it in San Francisco. But man, if he produces a top 10 defense again year one with that group, like he'll get another head coaching job immediately. I'm surprised he didn't get one last cycle, actually. But that's kind of where I stand on it. I think as we sit here, they should be viewed as the second best team in the division. I'm a little perplexed that they're not. But I want to hear what you think. And especially if you're someone that happens to be watching this that's not a Seahawk fan. Maybe you tuned in because we're discussing the entire division a little bit. Tell me why you think your team is poised to finish ahead of the Seahawks in the division. Specifically. Like, give me some action, all right? I like the engagement, but a lot of times I get replies. I just got one this morning where we were talking about like how things will happen with that edge group on like passing downs, 3rd and long, and that maybe you take Tyrese Knight off the field and you put Nwosu in there, kind of that NASCAR package. So you have 3 edge guys. You'd have like Murphy, Leo, and then you'd have Derek Hall, Nwosu, and Mafe, something like that, right? And somebody replied and said, keep Knight on the field. That was it. Cool. I like the engagement. It's better than nothing. But tell me why. Tell me why you think the Seahawks don't deserve to be viewed as better than 3rd or 4th in the division. Or why you agree with me and why you think they do. Is there something I missed? Is there an aspect that you're excited about the team that maybe I didn't touch on? In the meantime, as always, follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky too. I don't post there as often, but it's at Seahawks Forever. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you would, please. Hit that like button. And then if you want to support the channel in any other way, those are listed and linked down in the description. Thanks, you guys. It's good to be back. Join me tomorrow. Corbin Smith will be on the show giving us his on-the-ground perspective of what he saw at VMAC. Beautiful weather in Seattle as the rookies worked out for the first time, and get his thoughts on that and some of the invitees too, and who he thinks might have stood out enough to potentially get signed, because I think we'll see some roster shuffling now over the next week or so. Until then, I'm Dan. This is Seahawks Forever. As always, forever and always, go Hawks. Thanks for watching.